Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast. I am your co-host, Dr. Craig Spodak, along with my trusty pal, Dr. Peter Boulden. And we
How
are
are you,
back
buddy?
with an interesting episode of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast today.
Well, I'm going to need you to bring be the energy bus.
Oh, I got it, bud.
And it's a dark, cold day in Atlanta. Winter is full upon us, and it's like my energy's a 2.
I know how you get, bud. And then I'm expecting the call in 47 days. I think it's February 16th or 18th every year, about 2:30 p.m. when the sun's setting. Like, man, I got to move to Florida. And then you go through 3 weeks of looking at houses in Jupiter, right? And then magically it's May 17th. It gets sunny. It's 68 degrees. And you're like, hey, screw that. Right?
Every year.
Every year.
Like it's almost like you could chart this out, right? Which is why I tell myself in summer to plan the trip for President's Day to a warm place.
Come on out.
It's not warm enough. I'm just kidding. In February, it's pretty cold in Florida even though, bud.
It's 79 degrees today.
Well,
maybe 80. I'm sorry, 81.
Here we are. It's December 10th. What I did not want to do with our content, you and I banged out 5 podcasts the other day, right in a row, and they were short little bangers, 15 minutes, but they are for the new book, right? And so you'll basically scan the QR, and that's the only way you'll kind of get to them. So we're not going to be publishing those. My takeaway from that, though, Craig, is I was like, dang it, they're such good like concepts and ideas and things that I wish that we could be going at scale and talking about it. But what was on my mind and on my kind of heart today was it's December 10th. We've got 20 days left before the end of the year. And a lot of times at this point in the year, unless your CPA has been prepping you, unless you've been kind of in a mastermind or someone challenging you, like the year's almost done, right? It's in the books. You close the chapter and put it up on the shelf. And so whatever you accomplished or whatever you did or whatever tax break or whatever, it's closed January 1. So, who knows when this comes out? I'm guessing probably maybe this week. Depends on our, maybe I'll tell Vanessa, maybe we pump this out to be released this week. But Craig, you and I have learned a lot in our independent careers, right? We've seen what good strategy has done, not just from a tax perspective, but from a business perspective, from a personal perspective of planning, right? Planning to end the year strong and planning to start the year strong, whatever that looks like for you. So anything to comment on this?
No, I think a lot of people are surprised by their tax bill. One of the things that just makes me think when you say the year is closed, there was like the first 10 years of my career where I literally could have used another sensor. Mm-hmm. Like I had people waiting around, hygienists like borrowing sensors, waiting at the door while an FMX was being taken so they could hot swap the sensor to another patient, only to realize that I paid tax money on, or I paid taxes on that sensor that I could have utilized, put into service.
Yeah.
So that's just one small example of tax.
So that's
planning.
An end of the year strategy from a purchase of equipment, right? And so
but when I hear the end of the year is closed, that's the first thing my mind goes to. Is
so closed, the clock starts over, right? You get a whole different year. Now the caveat to that is, Craig, what you're talking about is equipments and scanners and 3D printers and stuff like that, like big ticket items that usually you've been waiting on. And so the beautiful thing about our tax code is that you can sometimes get these things and you can put $0 down and you can get the full benefit right up front. Well, in this instance, in this current administration year, it's a 60%, right? Because we are still under the phase out. Next year, all bets are going towards the 100% bonus depreciation, which means, and let me just break this down real quick. It doesn't mean that you don't get to, like, the difference between this year and next year isn't that you don't get to write off more. It's just you don't get to write off as fast, right? So it's not like it's a better tax strategy. You just get to do it over a longer period of time.
Which means it's a better strategy, by the way, because you're getting an interest-free loan in your taxes, essentially.
Right. So when we are, so next year, and I would bet that I'm right on this, that we were going to be in 100, Trump is going to highly try to stimulate the economy because he's being advised that the only way out of our deficit is through prosperity, meaning
GDP.
Exactly. There you go.
You can't trim your way to success. You're going to have to grow.
Right. And you can't tax it, right? Because so it's not going to be by raising taxes. It's going to be through productivity. And the United States is going to be on a tear. They're going to lift up the regulations on so many things, right? Okay. So that being said, getting to the end of reeling us back in, the 100% year, right? All things being equal is a better year to be buying things like that. But then you don't know what your year looks like, meaning that the only way that big ticket items, right, for that year, if you make a bunch of money in that year, then it makes a lot of sense to have the 100% bonus depreciation. But sometimes you don't need that complete write-off year one. Would you agree?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had years where I'm negative.
So exactly, that's what I'm saying. And so those are carry forward years, right? You get to carry that loss forward into the next year. Okay. So things to be thinking about. If I were, right, I've been a dentist for 21 years now. And that's really the first time I had to kind of wrap my head around year-end planning or being very strategic. So things like a scanner, do you need one? Things like, is it time for that cone beam, right? Is it potentially should you stock up on supplies?
Yeah, I don't love that, by the way.
No, okay. I'm just ideating here.
Yeah, so let me just kind of create some parameters around to what you're saying. So the first thing I want to say is a little bit cliche, but I'm sorry. Don't let the tax tail wag the dog.
Yeah. So
what a typical newbie would do is like, let me just buy all this crap because I don't want to pay taxes. You still, by the way, if this comes off of your AGI, so you have $100 you made for the year and you bought a $30 scanner, that means that you reduce your AGI.
Adjusted gross income.
Your adjusted gross income. So it's not free. Correct. It is not free. You still pay for it. So it's like when your wife comes to you and say like, oh my God, this dress, it was $1,000 off. I got paid $1,000. No, you still spent $3,000 on the dress, even though it's $1,000 off. So
that's the difference between credits and deductions. Okay.
Right. So that's the first step. So don't let the tax tail
I would
wag
agree
the
with
dog.
that.
So if you need it, it'll make you more money and you're going to need it like in the next 3 months, buy it now. Yes. Always buy it now so you can expense it. The second thing is when you start messing around, most of us are cash basis businesses. We're not accrual basis. What does that mean? That literally means that whatever you buy, you expense fully. I mean, it comes off of your net income. So we don't accrue things forward. So if you prepaid, your Invisalign bill or whatever else it is, like you paid, you owe $5,000 for your Invisalign, you send them $10,000. It's going to it's going to raise your expenses. The problem with pre-buying supplies or prepaying bills is it's going to screw up your books.
Yeah.
So it creates it. Yes, I think it's really cool to do that. But it's short-sighted. It's like paying your,
All right. Let me ask you this. I would agree with the supplies, Craig. I would agree with that, especially too, because of just shelf life and storage and who knows where things go. I agree. I don't agree with the supplies. Don't do this. What would you say about prepaying for continuing education or memberships?
Well, yeah, but okay. So if I'm going to go to the Bulletproof Summit, August 8th and 9th, and I knew I wanted to do it, I would absolutely buy that now.
Agreed.
But would I prepay Kois because I think I might do it this year or I might do it next year?
Right.
No.
Right. Okay.
I wouldn't. So again, it screws up your books. The first 10 years of my life, I was always like prepaying. So like December's a strange month. I would try to bang out the associate check before December 31st because what happens is everybody in my office is paid out the 10th of the following month. So December's pay is January 10th at the earliest, maybe January 12th. So, but I was doing this and then my Januaries would look amazing because I pre-booked all my expenses in December and my Q1 was super profitable and Q4 I was like, dying. Right. So I couldn't normalize the business. If you ever want to take on a partner, it makes it difficult because you have to adjust things back out. So I think you should run your business for the business you want to have in the future. If you're a solo doc listening to this and you just like to listen to a couple entrepreneurs talk about dentistry and you're never going to do an entrepreneurial role in your dentistry, you're never going to be a dental business owner, you're always going to be a solo doc. Yeah, FAFO all day. Just like do whatever you want.
Did you say FAFO?
Yeah. F around, mess around.
Oh my God.
But you're not going to find out. You're going to fa. You're not going to fo because it's not illegal to do that.
You're just going to fa.
You're just going to F around.
All right.
But if you're thinking like, okay, in the future, I may want to bring in a Dr. Junior and I may want to have a partner, it's hard to start explaining, oh, well, I kind of, I do my Invisalign bill and I pre-book, things I may want to do. It's just, you're messing around. You're screwing up your books.
with your clean P&L. I agree.
Yes. And the worse your P&L, the more conditions you have to put on your P&L, the lower your value goes, I would say. Generally.
Agreed. Two other things I would encourage people to look at if there is a retirement contribution that is tax conducive, look into that. Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Right. And then, anything charitable, right? We always forget that charitable deductions are an amazing way. And it feels really good, if that's something you wanted. So just don't forget before the end of the year. So that,
by the way, it could be a little bit more advantageous. You want to talk to your CPA, your tax person, but it could be a little bit more efficient if you have a choice to do a sponsorship for the charity or a donation to the charity. You could take out a $2,000 ad in said charity. From an advertising standpoint, if you can code it to advertising, I've heard that it's a little bit more deductible than a charitable donation.
I think we could because a deduction is going to go on your personal versus you're saying a sponsorship is going to go on your business. So I think there's more. Anyway, we probably could go down a rabbit hole on that one. But
let me just ask my 130 IQ friend in my pocket. If that
I mean, sure, why not?
Let me just. I have a really good friend of mine who's an IQ of 130. And he's super smart. He knows everything about me.
But he has access to all the world's knowledge.
I was either going to be able to make a $2,000 advertisement to the charity that I love, or I was just going to donate the $2,000 to the charity. From a tax standpoint, would it be more beneficial if I could code the expense as an advertisement versus a charitable deduction for an S Corp? My best friend.
For an S corporation, advertising expenses are fully deductible as ordinary business expenses, reducing your taxable income. Charitable donations by an S corporation, on the other hand, can be passed through to shareholders to deduct on their individual tax returns, subject to certain limits based on adjusted gross income. Generally, advertising might provide a more immediate and predictable tax benefit, but the best choice could depend on your specific tax situation.
Yeah, so that's one of those ask your CPAs kind of thing.
But the way I understand it from that, and obviously I have a selection bias, it could be advantageous to write it through advertising. So if you have a choice, take out the $3,000 ad in your church magazine, or to them it doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't matter to them. They may want you to advertise in their church
because
newsletter.
that's yes.
So
this is one of those things too, and going back to the many years of our careers, I never really had prognostication of my finances, right? We always talked about things as if they had already happened, and they did. So the years would close and he's like, oh, what we should have done? I'm like, dude, don't do that to me. Don't say what we should have done, because we had, we're almost like in April talking about the year before's taxes. That ever happened to you, Craig?
Oh yeah. Well, the problem is when you're doing your come up, you're making more money. So last year you made $100,000 and this makes you make $200,000. So you're way out of whack.
And you forget to tell them, hey, by the way, things are a little bit better, things are a little bit worse, or I had this liquidity event, right? And you don't loop them into your world because you're thinking, hey, you just do my taxes. So find someone, if you don't have someone now that can file your taxes, but also be a strategist. Like I text mine all the time. What do you think about this idea? He's like, I don't like that. It's too close to the line. I'm like, okay. And I'll send him another thing. What do you think about this one? I like that. We can justify it, And so like I come up with strategy, Craig, with my guy, and he tells me kind of like, too sketchy, or I like that. Let's do that. But I didn't have that for so long. So I encourage you, if you're sitting there.
You just got the same answer though every year from your CPA. You should be really happy that your tax bill is blank. That means you're doing really well.
Yeah,
I understand. I'm very happy, but the tax code is 6,000 pages long, and over 5,000 of it talk about incentives, which other people call loopholes. There are legal, non-questionable ways in order to maximize the tax code. People throw a lot of shade on Donald Trump for his tax law. I mean, and he said it best. He's like, if you don't like the tax code, change it. But if you don't throw the book at me when I'm using the book properly. And real estate, he's a real estate professional. And my best friend Michael is a real estate professional, and he makes 10 times more than I do and pays 10 times less in taxes. So the factor of 100 with him, he makes 10 times more and pays 10 times less in taxes. And he's not breaking the law. He's just
utilizing the tax code.
Yeah, he's utilizing the code.
There couldn't be a line I hate more from an industry than, hey, look at it this way. Just be glad you made a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Like that is what that means is I didn't really do much. I'm just covering my ass because I'm the one who signs your returns.
Just be exactly happy. Don't be upset you have cancer. Just be happy that there's pills you can take called chemotherapy to help you. God. It's the same thing.
All right. Let's move on. Move on.
Get me all riled up.
I know. Maybe we should have just stopped the pod and called it tax shit for the end of the year. Right?
No. There's other stuff too. There's other stuff.
So whenever I would get into the end of the year, I get energized by reflecting on, I'm a big goal setter, Greg. So I get energized by kind of revisiting those as a finality. And then the break, usually, mid-December is when people kind of just check out a little bit, unfortunately.
Yep. The year's over.
Let's call it the 20th. So you have a couple good weeks where you are almost forced to be quiet and inside because it's cold. And a lot of people, unfortunately, spend that either watching football or just a bunch of sitcoms or whatever. I don't know what they do. But this is a great time to get very strategic. If your year didn't end up the way you liked it this year, right? Then change your inputs to get a better output for next year.
Yep.
So this is where you kind of come in more, right? This is where like the vision and getting a clarity on your vision of what you want. Are you still aligned with that vision? Like spend some time thinking about that. Maybe you get very granular with your goals, and there's goals for your practice from a revenue level, from a new patient level, from a procedural level, from, maybe there's some goals associated with the sentiment of your team. What's that number called, Craig? Like an NPS score of your team. Yep. Maybe that's a goal. Maybe you want to implement the dream manager, like we had that on, right? And then you have some personal stuff, right? Because we are not just dentists who run business. We have a life and a family, and maybe there's a vacation. Maybe you want to take more time off, but get very intentional. Like the end of the year, beginning of a new year is a superpower time. I think God gives us that time to kind of say, hey, let's celebrate my birth. And you think about your life too. And we'll all be chill and quiet, and you have so much time to think about your next year's goal. What do you think, Greg?
I know you always look at the year. You tend to look at, like, you celebrate anniversaries more than I do. Mm-hmm. They're inflection points for you. Mm-hmm. And I don't really subscribe to it. I'm always wanting to be hopeful about something, the way my brain works. And we talked about this, I think, last year at the turn of the year. And it's like, what wood have you put on the fire? So, we all have businesses. Some are burning hot, some are burning like smoldering. But whenever you add wood to the fire, you just have to sit back and wait for it to ignite. And that means in X amount of time, that's going to be blazing again. So I have a thing where I've got to always be hopeful for something. So what's going on right now, I could just, at any given moment, I don't see it as a 24 to 25 thing. Really? I see that I'm always looking to add wood to the fire. So what does that mean? 2025 just happens to be the year that my clinic will be expanded. The wood that I'm adding is 5 operatories. The wood that I've added is more days of a periodontist that's a future partner in my practice, taking on those 2 partners. So I don't look at it like, I don't see the break point between 24, 25. If you would have asked me in Q1 of this year what I'm excited about, or Q3, I always want to be figuring out ways to grow what I've got, because things are either growing or dying.
Well, the only reason, okay, and this is a great distinction of our brains, right? We are probably a yin and a yang. We are different. If you spent time with us together, you would know that our modalities are very different. And I personally, Craig, I just like bookends on things. I like to say, hey, this was my plan. This is what happened. And here's where I went wrong, right? I take the reevaluation and then modify. And so I hear you, wood on the fire, and I agree with you. You should constantly be on. It's not just, okay, cool, I got everything that I wanted or set out to do. It's like, no more wood. I agree. You should be put on the fire. I'm sorry, logs on the fire. It's just, I think some people function from, more of a subjective timeline, I should say. And it's nice to be like, okay, in this tranche of time, this 12 months, here's what I expect to happen. And then you keep evaluating as you go through the year and saying like, I'm on track. I'm not on track. What do I need to change? What do I need to modify? So that's all I was saying. So, I mean, there's so many things you could look at and say strategic planning for 2025 for your business. There's just so many things. Like, I want my SEO to increase. I want my marketing budget to increase. I want to do more all on X cases, like so many things. And that's just saying that's the time to sit and you're the architect of your life. And that's the time to sit and think like, what do I want? What do I want to do more of? What did I enjoy doing a lot of this year? Let's do more of that. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a constant audit process in my brain. I don't know what's better. I think as you were talking, I'm like, and I maybe you get further ahead because it's like a real intentional, it's like if every day is Earth Day, then Earth Day never happens. It's like you have this, you're very hyper aware of the season, this change of a re-beginning, and you take a broader sense of inventory of your entire life.
I've just always had a very strong, like, I say this term, like a bias towards action, like an urgency, and blessing or a curse. But like, I can't unfortunately just like, yeah, we'll see what happens. Like you roll with, you're saying, you're just rolling with it, just constantly thinking about wood to put on the fire. And I have a little bit of freneticism, right? Which is good and bad. And some urgency to be like, well, the end of the year, because that year will go down in history, right? Like I have a record, Craig, of my goals and then accomplishments from year 2007 to now, like every year. I have them. I can show them to you, and it's crazy to look back. And that is kind of my journal almost. Now I get to look back as an older man and look back and be like, oh, wow, the things that I was worried about or the things that I was trying to fix back then, it's crazy. So
yeah, you see higher quality problems, which is nice.
Well, yeah, higher quality problems. And like, it's just, what you thought was like a BHAG, right? We all know the BHAG goal, the big hair. What does it stand for again?
Big hairy audacious goal.
Yeah. And what you write is like your BHAG, and like, there's no way I'm going to get this.
Yeah. 6
years ago, you look back and you're like, oh my God, what? I was thinking like a mental midget on this one.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. Right. And that's something to be super proud of, because one day, like when I'm an old man, no one's listening to me, and my kids have put me up in some old folks home, I'll be able to look back, and that will be some sort of little legacy that I can say like, that was a pretty cool run. I don't know. Didn't mean to go all the way down that path, but
well, I think it's a really important path for your own fulfillment, because personal growth, there's no waypoint. You can't tell what you've accomplished. So reading what your challenges were, like from 3, 4, 5 years ago, if I could only get this, and you see how far past you are from that, it's a really adaptive, good thing for you to know, because the hedonic, treadmill. The law of adaptation is, I just wish I could make more money. You make more money. And then 5 years later, I'm like, I feel like I want to make more money again.
Right.
Why am I not making more money? And you're like, no, dumbass, you were making 100. Now you're making one, whatever, then 150, then 200, 250. So it's a way to celebrate that's why like raising children is so satisfying, because you have photo record of the toddler that was like, had pudding on his face and couldn't feed himself. And now you're watching him go play soccer.
And you're like, I did that.
Well, yeah, it's part of it. Or watching a house go up, or a building go up. But for our own personal emotions, we rarely record them. So it makes it very difficult to understand the psychology. And it's really rewarding when you see that.
Do you plan a longer, you have a big team, right? Do you plan a retreat or a longer year launch? What am I trying to say? Like a beginning of the year, like full day immersion. Let's learn this. Let's focus on. Do you do that with your team? You do. Okay.
Yeah. So we do. So I have two. So this Friday, we have a strategic planning meeting. So this is an interesting one.
Is that with your entire team?
No. So I have two. I have an internal meeting of like what we want to accomplish. And it's always just been me and Erica. So this is the first year ever where it will be me, Erica, my two partners.
Oh, wow.
And we just kind of go over, what do we want to accomplish? What are the big goals? Like strategically, where are we going? It's from 9 to 2.
What do you cover like in that? Like, is
the
it
whole agenda? It's,
okay?
Numbers, treatment areas we want to focus on, the rocks that are the bigger rocks we want to move, long range, like planning. What are we trying to do? Longer range, it's in a whole agenda. It's a really dynamic meeting.
All right. So that's a 9 to 2 meeting. Tell me about the one with your team, like the retreat style, even though it's in your office.
Yeah. So that's, we always have like a team building exercise, some sort of like fun thing. Like everybody stands up and does some sort of fun thing where you have like the popsicle sticks, you're trying to make something tall, or I don't know. It's a whole bunch of different things. And then it's, we all declare individual goals. So we work as a team to say, okay, this, Becky, you did, 600 last year. What are you going to do this year? What are your big goals for this year? And from that, we determine the annual forecast of what we're going to do. So Becky wants to do 100, Diane wants to do 100, and we add it up. So we're like, we're going to get to this.
That's cool.
And we'll put a goal onto that, and a celebratory goal.
So because there's weigh-in, there's buy-in, essentially, right? Is that what you're?
Yeah. So last year you said you were going to do 300. You actually did 320. So this year your stretch shouldn't be 300 because you already stretched past that. And sometimes people will say, well, I'm going to go from 4 days a week to 3 days a week, so I'm just going to take a cut. And then we'll encourage them, like, it's possible because Diane went from 4 days to 3 days and still kept the same amount of money. So we prognosticate and publicly declare. And then we also talk about personal things that we may want to accomplish as well,
That's where, like, honestly, not to bring up Dream Manager twice in one podcast, since we, but that's kind of like that, what it is. Like, what are the hopes and dreams and goals of the humans that come into your business, the employees? And that's a bigger, we've been putting out a few fires lately, Craig. And so we haven't really been able to deploy the Dream Manager as much, but now things are running again like a spinning top. And so I do see the kind of that Dream Manager methods being deployed. As a matter of fact, how we used to do, we did the philanthropy program called ADS Cares.
ADS Cares, yeah, of course.
So I said, hey, Kim, give me a number. Like, what is the total aggregate number that we have donated to this community, our community? And it came up, it was over over the course of, like, from the dawn of time we started it to now. And it was like over it was 200,000 something. I was like, that's good. But I think, when we have some people on our team that could potentially use that, like not the charity in our own practice, but like I'm taking that and converting that. I feel like I checked the philanthropy box in my community, did more than 99% of businesses in my community, right? By that level of contribution. And now I'm kind of redeploying that budget into the Dream Manager budget. So that we can, if there's needs of a team member or whatever, right? You got to have budget sometimes to make shit happen.
Yeah.
So stay tuned on that one as that goes. And that just feels good. It feels good that we check the box. Right. It's not just being selfish. It's like, okay, we've taken care of everyone else for a while from our vantage point. Now let's focus on our team. Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I'm happy you do that because it creates meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And that meaning's so important that people know that I think as a business owner, you have a certain responsibility to not only take care of your team, but to take care of the community at large. The decision to become a business owner may feel selfishly motivated at surface, like you want to create something that serves you, but it's not sustainable if it only serves you. So I'll hear our masterminders say sometimes often, and I know words are just easy to come out, but words indicate what your thought process is. And I hear people say things like, unsophisticated business owners say things like, I got to find a team that has my back. And I got to get people that have my back. I got to prioritize, me. And I'm like, that's like antithetical to a business. A business is designed to take care of other people. And then those people feel so well taken care of by the owner, the leaders, that they want to take care of your other people. Like you take care of them, they take care of the business.
random thought, we preach the oxygen mask on yourself first. And I think some people take the wrong interpretation of that to being just what you said. Yeah, it's about me. It's about me. What should I put it? And I'm like, that's not actually what we're talking about at all.
No, I know.
We're
but
not
it's
talking
easy
about
to
that at all.
It's easy to understand that. Like, I'm the one who took the risk here. I'm the one who signed on the lease. You're lucky to work with me. Like, I need a team that's going to support me. Like, no, actually, you have to take care of your team first. I mean, even as simple as like, I was just here, I'm at the ranch today. I got a new guy helping me. He's got no truck, so he has no ability to get to and from work. And he's been working with me for a couple of weeks. And I'm like, you know what? I got to take care of this guy. And I'm not recommending this for everybody because I could get totally shafted here, and stay tuned how the story unfolds. You may tell me I'm stupid for doing it. I know his mom, I know his family. I'm buying him a truck.
Can you just get him a scooter first or something?
Yeah, he lives an hour away and he pulls a 16-foot cattle trailer. So I'm buying him a $10,000 truck. Now, I'm not buying it for him. Well, actually, yes, I am. I'm buying it. I'm giving it to him. He's on the title. He's going to pay me back. He can absolutely hose me. Yeah. Right? Yeah. He can absolutely hose me. He could just say, I'm not paying you. I can't declare to Steph because he's on the title. And I'm kind of pressure testing this live with you, Pete. But like, I want to know that I'm here for him. It's that concept of leaders eat last. You do something for somebody, and you show them you're there for them in a time like that. And my thought and hope is that he would feel indebted and pay it off. And I expect that. But I'm also a grown man. And if he decides to completely shaft me, I get it too.
Yeah. So the extrapolation of that, right, for those of us who don't have farms and handymen that we need to support, is like that happens in our team. And we've all been hit up for, hey, can I get this? Right. Would you be willing to kind of start?
Yeah, that's funny you bring it to that, because I won't be willing to do it with my team. And only because my team is so large, I don't loan money to my team. So this is a controlled environment where
there's the new guy who manages the cattle, no problem.
I mean, I don't think they'll talk about it, but I mean, if they do, and he needed something,
that's an interesting thing. So
there's discrimination, stuff like that. Like, this is an independent contractor. He works for other people. He has his own corp. It's different. Look, there's discrimination, Craig, stuff
if it
when
works,
you need for one.
And I give it where everyone wins, I give it a 50-50 scenario.
Okay.
Right, where just hitting you straight from life, my gut punches. But if it works, I've actually done that to someone like that, and it worked out great. They paid it off, and they still to this day write me letters, even though I don't employ them. They write me notes and be like, "Dude, my life would have been completely different without your help." Not just for that one isolated incident of buying the truck, which I did, but a number of other things, right? Little mentorship along the way.
Sure.
Look, it has maximal upside, and like your downside. You'll recover from the loss of the truck if he hoses you. You'll recover.
Yeah.
Right. So I love it. I think it's fun. And you're at a place in your life, like, I think that you can act like that. And I think it's cool. All right. Let's talk about beginning of the year. Right. So we're at the end of the year and beginning of the year. So I think it's really important. We talk about, actually, you and I have been talking about health stuff independent of Bulletproof Health, and just health stuff as we're kind of aging and getting, we're middle-aged men now. There's different problems going on. And so I think I've been a big impact to you about being very intentional, because you get one chance at this, right? There's no redos on I've messed it up with my diet and health and this and that. I'll fix it when I'm 60. You do not get to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't, unfortunately.
So the beginning of the year is a great time to schedule things. And my encouragement to everyone listening to this is, and Craig, you just went through this, is go to whatever you can afford or comfortable with, get that level of care. And if you're a baby dentist listening, or you're just in dental school, unfortunately, you probably have to do what is in the plan. But if you have any kind of discretionary money, then I would encourage you to take some kind of leap into a concierge level diagnostics. Agreed?
Yeah. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I went yesterday and called you immediately and be like, what the hell do I do? But yeah. Yeah, I go to the Cleveland Clinic once a year.
But now,
and there's
but like,
higher
what
levels
if,
of it too, by the way. The Cleveland Clinic is not the most, it's
but you've created
good,
urgency though, Craig, because of something that was a small course correction a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I think men were guilty of this. Most of us don't seek the medical attention that we should. We're not good with this stuff, and I made some errors. I had results that I thought I could change.
I guess where I'm going with this is, for me, and maybe you're different, is if it happens to land on my calendar, it miraculously effing happens.
Yeah, of course. Whether it comes to a date night with your wife or your daughter or the health.
100%. But if it's this, that's what I'm going to do this year, and being very vague about your goals or your appointments or whatever. So like, do some research, and I'm agnostic to who, if you go to Mayo or you have someone in town, but don't have the conversation of your insurance doesn't cover that, because guess what? You can't be the own advocate. Your insurance company doesn't really care about LPA and, PSAs and things like that. I guess the PSA they do care about, but they don't care about deep level diagnostics, DEXA scans and MRIs and things like that.
Or a carotid calcium score, or CT angiography. Like, these are things that, like, I've had numerous stories, by the way, and I'm going to go for a carotid angiography. But my best friend, Michael, his father, Joe, went into his cardiologist and says, "Hey, I want this test." He says, "You don't need it." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Well, why do you not want me to have it?" "Well, we have to give you dye, and there's risks with dye." He's like, "Well, what are the risks?" He's like, "Yeah, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "That doesn't seem like a big risk." And the next question was, "Well, your insurance doesn't cover it."
Right.
And somehow that is meant, there's no other conversation that is going to happen past that. When a doctor tells a patient your insurance doesn't cover it, that is 99.99% of the time, okay, I guess I can't do it.
Right.
Whereas like he said, I'm fortunate, money is not an object. How much does it cost? It was like $1,500. So he insisted to get it. The guy wouldn't do it. He said, we at least write a prescription for it. He did it. And one of his like major, levels of distribution was blocked. And he wound up with an immediate cardiac catheterization and a stent placed immediately.
Really?
So, it's getting to and the same story, by the way, with my son. He's been in a cast for 2 weeks. He just got it off today, 2.5 weeks. Same thing. Son went into the doctor and broke his thumb, needs a cast. I said, can he get a waterproof cast? Because it's literally his whole hand up to his knuckles and over his thumb and down his arm, halfway down his arm, which means you can't like do anything for a week. You can't, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you can't wash, you can't shower, nothing. So same thing. Can I get a waterproof cast? No, insurance doesn't cover it. Can you check? I sit for an hour. It was $70, Pete.
Yeah, you told us that. That's funny.
I did that on the limited release pod though, right? Not on this pod.
Where you did.
Yeah. So it's just, the point I'm trying to make is that the system is not designed, because just like when you tell a patient they have to have a tooth taken out and that you could use PRGF and a bone graft as well. And then they do it all. They say yes to all of it. And they write you a negative Yelp review that a tooth extraction was $1,500.
Right.
No, the extraction was $375 plus the blah, 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 plus the blah, blah, blah. We as healthcare providers have to make the distinction between, does this person value their health? So for me or you, Pete, if we have to get an extraction, we're going to get a bone graft.
But you don't, here's where
insurance
I'm going
doesn't
with
pay for that either.
Here's where I'm going. I'm glad you brought that up. So you take it for granted in your 30s and early 40s kind of thing, because nothing is ever like, things are just kind of like the car is working just as it should. Right. But now, like when you get a little older, that's what I'm saying. It's so easy to fix the alignment now, right? By investing in the one thing that you've been given, your body, that you will not be able to redo. And so that's what I'm saying. So that is just my advice. And right, this is just an advice of two guys saying, hey, be intentional about your healthcare this year. If you weren't last year, then maybe this is a good year for it.
Yeah.
Random. I'm going to go a completely different place with this, Craig. What do you do do you do bonuses to your team, or do you do gifts?
Yeah, we do. So we just redid our whole our 10-year bonuses. That wasn't 10-year, that was tenure. Because it was something we hadn't looked at for a while. It had been like 7 to 10 years. So $1,000 meant a lot, 7 years ago. It doesn't necessarily mean the same now. So we trued up everybody. So our holiday party was on for Saturday. this past Saturday.
Oh, you already had it?
We just had it.
Oh, cool.
So we hand out awards that are elected, that are voted upon.
Awesome.
And then we trued up. So people that turned 10 years this year in the past, 12 months in the year of 2024, we trued them up to get the new bonus. The 7 years got trued up. The 5 years got trued up. And the 15-year got trued up. And I took a page out of your playbook, and we got our 15 years Rolexes, which is really cool.
It's really cool.
But the bonus structure, so we're committed in my organization to paying up to 25% of our total team salaries. So total team expenses, rather. So it's the hourly wage plus the retirement plus the payroll taxes plus the uniforms. And by the way, this year I spent $20,000 because I bought everybody new uniforms. So that's a one-time expense in 1 year that could probably run over 2-3. It could accrue over that long. But we just took it as a cash expense this year because we're cash basis.
What was the impetus for that? Just out of curiosity.
The uniforms are ugly and old, and I want to get fixed for everybody.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah. So we were just able to, Erica put together a spreadsheet, and she ran it by me and the partners, and she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I didn't read it, and I don't want to read it, but does it work?" She goes, "Yes." One of my partners is like, "Hell yeah," because he says yes to everything. And then the other one, who I know is going to read it like Erica and be like a fine-tooth comb, she read it all, and they were cool with it. And I know Erica wouldn't spend the money. I'm the spender. I'm the emotional spender of the SDG. Erica's the one that we can afford it. We can't do this. So if she comes up with it, I know it's pressure tested.
Get the brakes. Yeah.
She's the brakes. So it was modest, and it meant a lot.
Okay.
She has the optics to say what means a lot, because what means a lot to me is very different from what means a lot from everybody else.
We do. I know you didn't ask, but I do the same thing from a Christmas bonus, because I feel like people enjoy cash more than me saying like, I think you want whatever. And it's an easy way just to give people longevity too. So for their hiring anniversary, they get $100 per year they've been there, right? So year 5, they would get $500, and the same as in Christmas too. It's the way.
Oh, they get $500 per each year.
No, Craig. Sorry, $100. I didn't explain that.
Okay,
very
yeah,
well.
I'm sorry. $100 per year. So a 10-year gets $1,000. Yeah, so we bumped it. So our
$100 a year. Twice.
So we took it like, look, 15 years is a Rolex. Let's call it 6 Gs, right? So 10 years can't be 1,000. So our 10 years, 2,000.
But it shouldn't be linear, bud. It should be logarithmic in that it goes the more, right? Like it shouldn't be just like, here's the path. I think there should be it should be unweighed unfairly to the people who cross these thresholds of like 10 and 15 years, quite honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the 10-year person is just inherently more valuable than 2 5s. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. We're saying the same thing. So therefore, it's not a linear exchange of.
No, mine's exponential. Mine curves deep.
There you go.
Mine's a hockey stick.
Okay.
But anyway, it is what it is. And, one of the things I want to just drop right here as a pearl, and something I wish someone had told me 10 years ago is, if you have a multi-doctor practice like we do, there are certain things that your business does for scale that maybe should not be passed along all the way down to the associate level. So there's things that the business gets benefit for, and there's things that associates get benefit for. And where I'm going with this is the following. So let's say you're on your 3rd or 4th doctor that you've added to the practice. And because of that, your Invisalign lab fee now is going from $2,000 a month to $19 to $18 to $17 to $16. Here's where I got in trouble. And this is a very, very valuable. This is $1 million plus concept for the person that's on the trajectory that maybe you or I were on. What I want you to do is we have an Invisalign bonus. So we have a discounted lab fee, and SDG, the parent company, gives the Invisalign bonus out to the team. It's not fair that all the scale that you will develop goes directly to the associate, and then you pay the team as well. And where I'm going with this is the following. We have doctors in my practice that are very qualified and very capable. They go on maternity leave. When they come back 3 months later, they've had 10 cases start because our treatment coordinators are so dedicated to getting people. So therefore, yes, doctor, you deserve those 10 cases. You're amazing. You planted the seeds, but your treatment coordinator also should be bonused. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have things that will slide because of your scale, consider retaining some of that scale for your team. So if your lab fee from Invisalign is going to go from $2,000 to $1,500, maybe on that $500 savings gets passed along to your associate. Maybe you could carve out $50, $75 of it that goes to your team. Because listen, the fact that I have an Invisalign account that does, 300 cases or whatever that quarter, and Invisalign's now, super low fee. And my team is working on that. So I just want to plant that seed that not all the operational efficiency deserves to go to the associate, to the provider.
I agree with that. I think that's great. I think also too, when you can architect that
ahead of time
early in the years,
it's if you could do it ahead of time. It's like your points, your Amex points. Like my partners never cared. I told them, hey, it's going to be a pain in the ass to divide up these Amex points. The Amex points go to me. No problem. Right. But if we didn't do that, it would have been a problem. So this is another thing. As we will hold, you will get a less lab bill than before. But if we start really kicking butt with Invisalign, we may carve out a piece of the lab bill such that it goes to the team, not to the ownership group. I wish I had said that. I wish I had said that earlier.
So do you still feel like this is a pod about, I feel like this is very indicative of one of you and I's phone calls, by the way, just chit chat, because like one thing prompts another. And as much as I love to stay on task with like, here's the core subject for today's podcast, it goes into,
well, I had to insert that. Somebody out there, that's going to be very helpful for somebody out there.
100. Hey, I'm not complaining.
So who cares if you can't put a wrapper on it? Sometimes you have mushroom with meat sauce, not just meat sauce.
Hey, Craig, your wife says I am very rigid in my curriculum.
Okay.
I'm very
we'll edit that part out.
I don't know if she says I'm rigid.
Top hacks for the transitioning new year. Is there another one though? Bonuses, targets, goals, tax
just
planning?
Advice. It's more just advice, right?
Well,
for like end of
another
year
one?
Did you run not by the time this comes out, it won't be helpful, but did you run a use it or lose it campaign for insurance benefits?
Yeah, we did early on.
FSA, reminding people spend their FSA. Okay.
Yeah, we did that.
That's it. That's a pretty low hanging fruit. A lot of time too is it's a good time to circle back up on unproposed treatment, right? Like it's a good excuse. Sometimes we just need a primer. I don't want to call that patient and bother them. Right. And you may say, hey, Karen, I know we talked about this 10-unit case. We've got some time to bang it out this year if you want. And I don't know if you've got any FSA stuff, but I'm just thinking about it for you. Right. I know some people get a little cringe by reach out stuff like that, but like it's a great impetus for calling someone as well and saying like, hey, just didn't know if you were interested in this before the end of the year. Right. And at the end, this is a good time to do it because everything's chill at the end of the year. You may want to rest and recuperate. I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box. And that's it, but that's really it. I think it's, I did something interesting today, and maybe this is not pod worthy. But you tell me.
If you think it's interesting, it's pod worthy for sure.
I think it's interesting. I spent an hour doing it. And so, how people have vision boards? Well, at least I do. Okay.
Yeah.
And
don't tell me if Bentley's on that.
Huh?
There's a Bentley on there.
I don't want a Bentley.
You don't want a Bentley. Yeah.
No, mine's like, not stuff like that. It's like,
good.
It's not stuff that a 16-year-old boy would have, kind of thing.
Okay,
right?
good. That's
no
what I was going with it.
None of that. It's more like houses and vacations and experiences. Okay. So I looked at what prompted this was I looked at your iPhone. It'll tell you how many times you've picked up your phone for the day, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, where's that?
There's a pickup data.
Where is that?
And the reason I know this, you have to go into screen time.
Okay, I'm there.
And the reason I know this is because I manage all of my children's phones from my phone, right? What they can look at, how much can they look at, an hour for Snapchat or whatever. I have a 14-year-old, so she's one. And so I can control it. But in that, I can also see the amounts you can pick it up. So you can probably find it. And I can't go there right now because I'm trying to get my thoughts together so I don't blow this. But it will tell you the number of times you grab for your phone in the day. Not your screen time, but the number of times you
I'm
grab
looking.
it.
I don't see it. Where do I see it?
I'll have to find it. Someone will do it. So Google it Google how you do it. But it's called pickups. So instead of using like the app background or something that like I Googled what's the dimensions of my iPhone 15 from a background standpoint. And it said it's this pixel by this pixel. Okay, great. So like I actually took the things that I wanted to focus on for next year from a vision perspective. And I made like a composite image, right? So my family and God, like all the things that I kind of want to leverage those 184 times that I pick my phone up per day, because that's about what it is. I think last I checked mine. I was saying that's a great psychological hack of my time to look at it and say, boom, right? Oh yeah, that's the important stuff for this year, right? So it's a vision board on the back of your phone as your wallpaper for your iPhone. Why not?
Oh, that's so cool. Can you screenshot and send it to me? I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't make that clear because I was waiting for you to say something and
yeah, no, I love it.
So yeah, so have you found the pickups?
Yeah, just notifications. Yeah, the big thing for me is the biggest notifications is my SpyPoint Point game cameras for the ranch. It's constant, it's double my text messages. So yeah, I gotta stop that. I gotta stop notifications. I gotta do that actually.
Yeah, because so the average, a heavy user is 100 pickups a day is what ChatGPT says. So basically, and I would say we are all heavy users who are probably listening to this pod. Anyone who's in the...
Oh, wait. What is an average? Sorry. I'm sorry. I just got it. Yeah, I found it. Daily average mine.
What is it?
69. What did you say is a lot?
100.
Yeah, so it's my text messages. 69.
I see what you're doing there.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
What do you mean, what am I doing? You don't believe me, jackass?
No, just funny. Like 69420. Anyway.
I don't know.
It's a pod for another day.
I have no idea what you're doing. I get 120 daily notifications though.
But it's a great hack to focus on, right? When I think screens and buzzes and all that, those things interrupt your daily flow, right? When you start getting into things, I think bzz, 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 like iPhones are like abusive to your concentration. So if you don't turn notification stuff off, so I was like, all right, well,
I just turned off my,
I'm going to take it to pickups. So it's under settings, screen time pickups. You can just change your background to something that you actually care about, more than just a picture, right? A picture is great, but like, what if it could be like, yeah, here's the things I'm focusing on this year from my visionary perspective. Oh, just an idea.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great hack for me because I get 80 of SpyPoint cameras to show the same deer that are going in and, on my, like, who cares? Like, I don't need to do that.
You get 80 like buzzing and notifications.
So, yeah. On my watch and on my phone that a SpyPoint camera went off. It could be a cow like licking a tree. And I'm like, okay.
It could be a spider.
But the problem is you pick up your phone and bam, you're in that deep, deep hole.
Yeah. And now you're like, well, let me check this today.
Yeah,
let me check my Instagram. Let me check my
Instagram.
And then you come up for air in about 45 minutes, like, oh shit, what did I just do?
No. It's just, it's amazing the time suck. I am so wired for that though, man. Like I had an Xbox back in the day. This goes back to like when I was single, 2003, 2002. I had a neighbor, he's a chiropractor named Steve. We'd get dressed up to go out in downtown, like Miami or whatever. It's like 7:00. We'd be wearing our cologne or, whatever. You know how you were.
Cavaricis.
My Z Cavaricis, got the keys to the Mustang 5.0 and that drop top down, blast some Van Halen, Panama.
5150 is jamming in the background.
5150 is jamming. Yep. Got our Pez loaded. So anyway, we'd be sitting there. I'd be like, hey Steve, let's just play a little Halo. Let's play one game of Halo.
And then 14 hours later.
Literally 14 hours later, like I'm like, what have I done with my life?
Mm-hmm.
So the iPhone's the same thing. It's like I got 20 minutes and then I can get showered and then I'll be an hour early and then I'm an hour late. So it's really, you got to be careful of it. And it's not a.
Speaking of things, do you get stressed out when people ask you what you'd like for Christmas?
Oh, I don't. There's nothing I want.
Like
I'm so spoiled. The minute I want something,
question.
I buy it.
I have this question in December, and then we're gonna wrap. But like, I think grown men will laugh at this too, because like, people have texted me all month long, like, "Hey, what do you want? Like, what are you thinking you want?" And I want to write back, "Whatever I want, I've bought it myself."
Me
like,
too. I know it's such a douchebag answer.
It is. So you're like, I don't know, maybe some cologne. Like the cologne thing got, when you said cologne, it got me on that.
No, you don't want that.
One day,
let me tell you, there's a new cologne by Dracar Noir.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of
Dracar, that was a great smelling cologne. My dad, I learned an example of that growing up. My dad, under the tree, there was like this obscurely wrapped box of something when we were opening Christmas presents. My mom was like, I don't know what that one's from. And it was like obviously wrapped by a man. And my dad, my dad got it. And he was like, I don't know, it says, and so it says, from Walt, love, Walt. You know, his first name's Walt. And so everyone started laughing, and it was like that the table saw that he wanted. And he's like, yeah, like I just kind of get it, you know?
Yeah. Man, I'm spoiled.
That's funny.
I got a great gift though from my team for this year. It was perfect for me. So it's this framed picture, and it's a quote from Martin Luther King, like about like what you do for others is more of your legacy or something, like a really beautiful quote. And there's a QR code. It just says scan me. It says 2020. It doesn't say scan me. It says 2024 and a QR code. So it's a framed document. You scan it, and it's literally like 20 minutes of people telling me what an impact I've made on their lives. So of course I sat there listening to it, crying like a baby, like literally. I mean, they even said that they're like, don't scan it now, you'll start crying. But I got home from the Christmas party and I scanned it and I just listened, and it was just really emotional for me. It was really cool. That's the most amazing present I could get.
That's
because I'm a words of affirmation type of person.
Oh, I know.
Oh, I know, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I know, you know.
I have been sending this out to some of my friends.
Well, send one to me, asshole.
No, because it was these candles.
What does it say? It smells like what? I can't see it.
Smells like I was right about Bitcoin.
Oh, I love it. Yes, yes, that's perfect.
I wish I had some. Anyway, all right, buddy.
Well, I know. I heard about that. You lost all your keys. It's terrible, by the way. Yeah. We're in Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
Nebraska. On that big lake in West Texas.
That's a good pod. I think it's a good pod that we end light. You know, I think it's also a good time, as I'll finish back to you getting upset. I think it's a great time for gratitude, right? And the blessings, the curses, the things that happen. Sometimes we feel are curses during the year, and then you look back and you're like, that was actually maybe a blessing, right? And so I think it's a great time for the gratitude, right? To taking the inventory of gratitude would be the last thing I will end on as the end of the year, right? So it's not only setting your goals up, but it's also kind of being like, life is happening for me, not to me, kind of thing. I think that's one of the things that I do between Christmas and New Year's, kind of thing.
Yeah. I agree with you. You're the person who's always said that there's always a silver lining.
You just don't know the time in which you will realize that, right? And everything. I mean, we've had cancer strike our family. I've had embezzlement, like all the hard things, right? And sometimes you think like, woe is me, and maybe not every time with 100% certainty is it a blessing, but you give it enough time, and then you see the reason. Sometimes, 9 times out of 10, you see the reason for it happened, and it became.
And even the bad things that make no sense, there's also meaning in those too. So. All the hard times we've had have made us more grateful, for sure.
Well, I'm grateful for you, buddy.
I knew you were going to say that.
My public declaration. So
my once a year affirmation. Don't get used to it.
Well, no, I mean, look, I'm not very frivolous with my emotions. So that's all you get.
I like it. I'm grateful for you too.
Better cherish it. Replay it just like you did the other quote. Replay.
Yeah. Why don't you? I'll clip that from the podcast. You make me a QR code.
All day long. All right, buddy. Love you. See you.
Love you
next
too,
time.
bro. Thank you, man.